Listen, I don't think I've told you this before, but I've met your son for the first time at the Garrison, and I gotta say, he's a very, very cute baby. I gotta hand it. I gotta say, and I think you're lucky that he doesn't have your looks. You know, his looks did not come from you, so that's what
I'm sad you snuck that in. I was gonna say, well, it looks like me, then obviously.
Well, I knew you were gonna say that. I just want to preemptively make sure that he doesn't say it. You know, that's what happened.
He's very cute.
Yeah, at some point, I thought it was special because he was laughing so much at me, and then whenever someone
laughs when they see you.
Yeah, well, whenever someone came, he just started laughing at everybody. Then I thought, well, it has nothing to do with me, unfortunately. All right, hello there, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Majmoura.
And I'm Zavaipoch.
And this is episode 28 of The Town Center, your podcast dedicated to all things Age of Empires. In today's show, in what's been labeled absolutely shocking and stunning news, the Viper has won a tournament. This time, it was the Wallhalla 2 tournament, and we'll give you all the details of how that came to be. Then we'll update you on the latest regarding Warlords 4 and the Masters of Rage Forest. And later in the show, we're joined by Cysion. He's the lead developer for Age of Empires 2, the big boss of AoE 2, and we'll try to pry some early information out of him regarding the upcoming new DLC. You know, in fairness sake, we already had the interview, and it was a great interview. I showed it to Timon, by the way, and he thought it was very interesting, and I don't think he knew Cysion for whatever reason, so he was such a good talker and such interesting insight and all that.
To be so ingrained into Age of Empires and then not know about Cysion is a bit strange.
Yeah, there you go. So for folks who are not familiar with Cysion, we definitely recommend you stick around at the end of this part of the podcast. If you enjoy our show, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you prefer to listen to us on Spotify, make sure to rate us 5 stars. But first, Orion, yes. Jordan is back.
Jordan is back.
Or is he? How much back is he? How do you see the situation?
Time will tell, right? We have the situation now where he's dipping his feet into it a little bit again. And I think it will depend a lot on how he feels, let's say, over the next 2-3 weeks. Because right now he still has the kind of, I've been away for a while. It's fun to play the game again. It's fun to stream again. It's fun to develop my skills again. But is he still going to have that same passion in 2 or 3 weeks? He has kind of made a bit of a, I wouldn't say bold claim, but his goal is to qualify for Warlords currently.
So he's definitely going to sign up. That's good.
Yeah, Warlords qualifier starts in 2.5 weeks-ish, 3 weeks. So that's he has to step it up big time. But then again, he's already higher elo than Doubt. So I mean, the odds should be okay.
Well, you're next then. You're next because your elo is pretty low, isn't it, right now? 2K5 or something? Pretty low.
Why we have to, I just won a tournament, bro. Come
on. Yeah, fair enough.
No, but it's obviously, for me, I mean, my Age of Empires has been with Jordan. I grew up is not the right word, but I took my baby steps in Age of Empires with Jordan. I became a good player with Jordan. And for me, it's always when Jordan is around, Age of Empires feels right. Obviously, he's also a close friend of mine, so it's nice to have him around more often. But I hope he's here to stay. Time will tell. Jordan is a very he's extreme in the way of when he commits to something, he commits, right? He's not half-assing anything in life. So if he decides to go for this, he will definitely go for it again. But time will tell how long it's gonna last. Jordan has been back 74 times already, so I don't know how long this one is gonna last. But I'm very happy to see him around, and hopefully he sticks around for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's the main point, right? So I've talked to him a lot during the Garrison. I think he must have been the guy I talked to the most at the Garrison. Maybe Timon. So he was telling me he's really thinking about it. He's having so much fun. He's really thinking about trying to go full-time again. And I asked him point blank, I mean, if I were you, which I'm not, I tell you, if I were you, I would just wonder, why would it be different this time? Because you remember when he came back. Well, let's go to the last time he came back regarding this one. He was motivated as hell. Just a couple of months after coming back, he finishes second in the Hidden Cup. Folks probably forget about this. So it's hard to imagine, a situation where he would be more motivated than that to stick around, after having so much success. So what's going to be different this time around was what I asked him. And he said that last time that he quit, it was purely a financial decision. The money was just not right. He was just not making ends meet. Something needed to change. And he said that right now, the financial situation is a little bit different. Now, I'm not close enough to him that I would ask again, what do you mean by that? I mean, I've known Jordan for, I don't know, 10, 15 years, but we're not as close as you guys are, for example. So I didn't want to say, what do you mean? Did you inherit anything? Or I didn't want to ask more. So apparently from a financial standpoint, it's not as critical as it was before. That's what he told me. And so that gives him another criteria in terms of whether it's going to work out for him or not. So I hope, obviously, it does work out for him, but there's that to consider, I guess.
I mean, I was like, ever since probably like almost a year back now, I started planting a seed in Jordan's brain. Jordan, the Cartographers 2 is going to happen.
Uh-huh.
We are reigning champions. So it was probably less than a year ago, but I've been slowly working on his brain to kind of try and convince him that there is always the room for Jordan to come back. The bad thing though with Jordan coming back is like the Cartographers was sentimental in a way for me, because I knew back then already that this was going to be Jordan's possibly last tournament where he's active. Mm-hmm. So it was special for me to win that tournament with Jordan. But now he's back again, so it means nothing. It's what a waste.
You wanted to finish it.
Yeah, we put such effort to finish on a high, and then it's.
Oh, well, still, it's the last tournament you guys played together. Yeah. Speaking of which, though, I think he did amazing, by the way, at the Garrison. And I say this because, we've talked about this. Jordan hasn't been around and still being invited to these things. I thought he did really, really amazing in the Garrison. More, I'll say it, better than I was expecting. Talked a little bit to him about that as well. He said that in terms of the role that he was doing, he kind of felt like the role at Red Bull was a little bit more his line, a little bit more what he likes to do, because he was just talking alone. He was just, deciding what kinds of things he thinks is important to talk about. And but I also think one of the reasons he was saying that is because people probably don't realize this, but the role of the interviewer in these tournaments, in the context of a LAN, is actually one of the most exhausting, because you have to keep watching every single game, every single series. When you have like the casters, like Memf, Dave, whatever, they cast their games. They're very focused. Of course, it's very high, high voltage in that moment. But then you can just relax once the series is over. Is relax. But for Jordan, or I guess for Vodka, would be even crazier, right? Vodka just needs to be there the whole time.
Yeah, and pay attention the whole time. And I know there was one of the days where Jordan was supposed to do like a winner's interview at the last set of the day, but he fell asleep on the couch during, so he was sent to the hotel.
I didn't even know that. So it's actually one of the most exhausting roles, and maybe one of the least satisfying, I would say, because you have to be watching the whole time, and then you get like 4 or 5 minutes of airtime. So I can't imagine. That's why I think he had. I don't know. I want to say he had more fun at Red Bull, but I don't know if that's true. I just know that a lot of people said that it was really well done, the way he was doing it. Yeah. Of course, you have the fact that he's a pro player himself, and he really can connect to players in a way that nobody else can.
He knows all of us as well, so he knows how to communicate with us in a way that we're all comfortable with as well. And I think at Red Bull as well, he was able to shine more of his own knowledge and his own analysis of things. While here it was more like bouncing just back and forth with the winner of the series, right? So he got to do less analysis. He was more kind of just like, okay, bringing up certain points in the game and asking questions about it instead of like actually analyzing, which is, I think Jordan enjoys a bit more the moment to shine himself, if that makes sense.
Well, fair enough. And when you're interviewing, you're sort of putting yourself second, if you want to put it that way. In any way, I thought he did amazing, and I think he enjoyed it as well. But it's a very exhausting role. I just want to make that absolutely clear.
But let's do another shout out to Vodka. Like the amount of observing he has to do. And imagine then you have to be even more focused, because you have to catch all the action, watch the minimap all the time, and then on top of that also the technical stuff where you have to like show fog of war, all these things. The observer role is so overwhelming in a way, and then it gets such little credit at the end of things. So massive shout out to all the observers.
Potentially, when it comes to talent, potentially the most exhausting role of all, because he really does not get any pauses. Well, I guess if you ask Gideon, someone like Gideon, I mean, he's running around. It's a different
kind of stress.
It's a different kind of thing. Yes, absolutely. And Vodka, again, did an amazing role. He's doing this whole thing with the replays as well, in the picture-in-picture. They didn't do it as much as in the last tournament. What was it? Was it Noble Apartment Cup? I wish they would have done it a little bit more.
But
it
I'm
was
not sure
still cool
if
to
there
see.
were that many incidents where it made sense, though. And I'm not sure how much attention and focus it takes to arrange it as well, right? He's a single, like he's doing it by himself, right? So
I can't imagine how he can do it himself. He needs to have like 2 computers or something, right?
If there's a second person observing that can like, okay, they have a good moment and he can like just quickly slap that on, then that's good. But right, as at yourself, no, that will be tough.
Yeah, I have no idea how that ends up working in any case. All right, so there's more good news. Viper wins Wallhalla.
Sorry, you don't have to bring it up. Okay, if you want to talk about it, then, I mean, sure.
Well, if it has to be, Rally, if it has to be. You know, when was your last victory before this tournament? Just bringing it casually, of course.
I think was it a big tournament? I think I beat Hera in like a little bit of a smaller event, like end of 23.
Bro, there was something a lot more important than that. You won the Battle of Scandinavia. Against Ganji. You beat Ganji in the final, November 2024, so not even that long ago. Yeah, then that was the Middle East tournament. That was that was considered an A-tier tournament. I think it was the end of 2023.
Yeah, and you I think it was right before one of the NACs from Nile, so
I guess it must have been before the very last. Now
it was 4-3 against Hera. I remember because the last game was really cool. I went all in YOLO Eagles and he was Vietnamese full night defense, and it was like a back and forth intense. It was really cool.
4-3 was the end result. Okay. Yeah. Might even been one of the... No, okay. So Hera didn't make it very far in the Wandering Warriors Cup either, right? So I want to say it was probably one of the last times where Hera didn't make it far. But in A-tier tournaments, Hera usually...
Well, he got to the final. He made it far.
in that case, absolutely. Yeah, so talk a little bit about the tournament. Of course, you didn't have folks like Leary and Hera participating, but you still had to beat Yo. You still had to beat ACCM in the final. And what I feel personally, and you can tell me how much you think this is true or not, it feels to me in any series you're playing against someone not called Leary and Hera, you're the favorite going into it. Is that how you feel about it too?
I would say so, yes. I think against Leary as well, probably it's more 50-50. And then against Hera, obviously Hera is favored against everyone right now. Yeah, me and Leary, I feel like we keep trading wins all the time. Although I think the last two times he probably beat me. I beat him in Red Bull, and then he has beat me in NAC, and
you beat him in Red Bull. That's true. Was it the semifinal? Was it the semifinal?
Yeah, semifinal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, obviously the last 2 or 3 times, I think Leary beat me twice in NAC as well. So at the moment he has the edge there. But yeah, against everyone else, I feel like I should be favored, and I should be. I should be favored. But I mean, then again, Yo beat me at the Garrison, right? So it just shows as well. It can go anyway, even at this level.
How much does it mean? I mean, you've won so much. You've won so many S-tier tournaments. You now win an A-tier tournaments. How much at the end of the day does it really mean to you? I mean, it's still $2,000, I think. So it's still a sizable amount of money, but also in terms of reputation.
I mean, it's always nice to win something, right? But obviously at the same time, Hera's not playing, Leary's not playing, Hart is not playing. There's plenty of people that are not playing. But at the same time, Yo definitely came in swinging. ACCM came in swinging. ACCM clapped out 3-0. So, I mean, like, ACCM is definitely performing. But then, I was like, Tato lost to Antagonist in round of 16 as well, right? So, I mean, it's still like, I don't know how much the other guys prepared. My preparation was to look at the maps and think about strats, right? So, I don't know if the others put in a lot more work. But it's still like, when my preparation was that, it also shows that the tournament, there wasn't necessarily like Red Bull or like, right? It wasn't an A-tier tournament. But yeah, it's always nice to win things. And I think the maps actually were really fun as well to play, despite being like starting as Wall and such. Like I think Hart, Hera, Leary, I think these guys would have enjoyed this tournament as well. So it's a bit disappointing that they didn't sign up. But yeah, in the end, I think the tournament was very fun to play. It was a great success and obviously happy to win it.
The problem with this tournament in terms of viewership, in terms of exposure, was of course that a lot of the rounds happened, not a lot of the rounds, but some of the games happened during the Garrison. And, folks were preparing for the Garrison and all of that. So feels like in terms of promotion, maybe it could have been better if it didn't clash with the Garrison, but it's just the way that it is.
I think as well, like T90 didn't cover it. I think Dave was traveling. He was streaming earlier rounds, I think, but then he was traveling now during the final weekend.
Tato,
so
yeah.
It definitely lost a little bit of exposure due to that, which is also a bit surprising to me, like why T90, for example, wouldn't cover this tournament.
I think it was just resting. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, for T90 must have been crazy because he didn't really stick around, right? So he flies to Hamburg, he stays there like 4 days or whatever, then he flies back. Um, I would have stayed a couple of days. I don't want to tell T90 what he has to do, but it's got to be very exhausting. So I guess he was just taking a few days to rest, which is totally.
He also had a very long TTL not too long ago, so
yeah, absolutely,
it's understandable.
Yet, despite all of that, the viewership was 16K, 16 peak in viewership. And of course, I don't know. I tried to get the information and wasn't able to. I don't know what Nilly, because Nilly always gives a goal whenever there's a tournament that gets sponsorship from Microsoft. They get a goal that they're supposed to reach. I don't know if that's close to the goal. I don't know if it surpassed the goal. I'm almost certain that it's a lot more than last tournament. So that is at least a positive. 16,000 peak. Yeah.
There is always context as well, right? Is the goal given with the idea that both T90, Dave are streaming it, I am as Hera streaming it, right? There has to be context to everything, right? So I think 16,000 sounds like great viewership for Wallhalla.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you have T90 streaming, if you have Dave streaming, this goes up by a lot more, obviously. But that's still the way it is. Okay, so then we have some new updates in terms of the Warlords 4 tournament. The prize pool is now $70,000 because the Onamaru sponsors decided to contribute $10,000 on top of the $60,000 that were already confirmed from Microsoft. Fantastic news, of course. More sponsors investing in the scene is always amazing. So great work by Mem and his team as always. And, $70,000, we can't pretend like these numbers are normal for us, I think. I still don't think they are. And this is a massive prize pool. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be investing a lot of time for this. So great news, $70,000 for sure. We also now know who the 4 invited players are. That's going to be Hera, Leary, Tato, and Viper as he sips a cup of coffee.
I'm still getting invited at least out. Okay.
You're still getting invited. This is probably going to be, Orion, the first tournament with the new civs. Does it worry you a little bit? We're going to have 5... Really? We have 5 new civs.
I'm mega hyped.
Sure, it's going to be a lot of fun trying to figure out strats and all of that. But it's going to be 5 new civs with very new mechanics, mangonels being removed, and who knows what else is going to be there.
I don't expect it to be like a massive amount of new mechanics, right? You have some new units, right, that might have some different mechanics, but it's still probably limited to few civs. So you have to just learn those things, and then that's fine. I don't think it's... The different thing is going to be the balance changes overall as a whole, and of course the 5 new civs. So... I think it's just fun, right? Imagine the meta is completely thrown off, right? I'm not sure if the patch will kick in before qualifiers.
If it does, I hope they don't adopt it. I hope, because that would be too short.
At least not the first qualifier. Like if the patch is released like during the first qualifier, maybe the first and second qualifier not with the patch, and then the third maybe with the patch. But that's up to the admins to decide. But yeah, the meta for Warlords is going to be thrown completely out the window for the main event, and people are going to be grinding ladder just to get the feel of the civs and such. But even there, I'm sure people are going to pick up on things and be like, without sharing it, right? I'll play and I'll realize that, okay, this could be very good in this scenario, but I'm not going to talk about it on stream because I might want to try in training and such, right? So I think a lot of people will come up with a lot of new things during the main event where people are going to be probably surprised and excited to see it happen.
Orion, if I remember correctly, in the Warlord settings, Chinese is very much considered auto win, right? With the beginning. What if all those new 5 saves had the same beginning?
That's what the question is, right? I can't imagine that being the case.
What if it is? You have 6 OP saves right away.
Then I really hope actually that they do some, that they do the balancing of it, right? That you remove a bit of food or something to make sure that these 5-6 saves aren't going to be like insta picks and insta bans and all. Like we want to see the new saves as well, right?
Right.
But yeah, I can't imagine that all of them have the same start. And who knows? Maybe Chinese start is also changing. We don't know, right?
We don't know. I think it would be a pity if they do change it because it's one of the things that make them unique.
I would like to see maybe 2 or 3 civs with that opening. So there's not only Chinese with that opening, but we have 2 or 3 variants there, and then the other 3 can have a bit of a different start.
Obviously, this is just something food for thought. Memb, Krazini, these folks are incredibly experienced. They're going to know what's best for the tournament. But I'm a little bit worried because I do know that devs have gotten a lot better in terms of judging the balance changes, whether things are going to be OP or not going to be OP. But when you have 5 saves, removing mangonel lines, rocket cards, just so many new stuff, I'm a little bit, I don't want to say scared, but
And what is there to be scared about, right? Okay, maybe there will be 2 or 3 civs or units that will be OP during Warlords. I think that's fine. People will realize and adapt accordingly, right? And I also trust the devs and the Forgotten Empires a lot more these days because they still have a lot of high-level players as well, included in their playtesting, right? I think Neil is playing with them now as well. You have obviously FH, Bruh, these guys that have all been very high-level players.
Bruh is an actual nickname. So for the folks who don't know, because bruh, you hear that word a lot in different contexts.
With that in mind, I think they're also able to identify OP-ness a little bit more compared to maybe like 5 years ago. So
agreed. I spoke a lot with Neely as well at the Garrison. He told me most of the time he's doing stuff for Microsoft, or I don't know about most of the time, but a lot of the time that he's doing stuff for Microsoft is discussing stuff with a balanced team. Yep. So very fair point there, that they have a lot of high level players as well. I don't actually see FH. I wish I could see FH streaming more often. You know, my first streaming days was watching you and FH, because you were more in the morning, he was more in the afternoon. Watching both of you guys 2013, 2012 or whatever, it was what made me into the Age of Empires 2 fan I am today. Something very interesting about the Warlords tournament, Orion, which we don't have very often, I feel like. We're going to have 7 brand new maps. Right, 7 brand new maps. And, you know, this is usually when you have brand new maps, these are maps that have been tested for a long time. And these are going to be brand new. So I don't think they've been decided. I've watched at the list. We have like 50 submissions or whatever. People really going ham in this. So that means each one of the categories in MEMS tournament is going to have a new map. Does that give you a little bit of pause too? Because, you know, maps at the beginning might not be as balanced as they are after they're, you know, featured in a couple of tournaments.
As long as, like, what I have disliked in the past is like, okay, they throw maps in there and then it's like, then main event comes around and we give feedback. This map is bugged, or this map has this. And then it's like, well, you guys could have reported it earlier or played it earlier. It's not our job as participants to test the maps for them, right? They need to make sure the maps are thoroughly tested and thoroughly balanced before they make us play them, right? Because we can also play a map 10 times without noticing. And then like, oh, the 11th time we realize, wait, this is completely unbalanced or wrong. But yeah, I imagine that after all the maps have been chosen, Krajini, for example, will still go through each map and make sure that to pick apart whatever can be wrong with it in terms of a balance point.
Yes, I would think so, yes.
And I mean, Warlords historically, I think, have had really good maps overall anyway. So I imagine they don't want to lower their level. So yeah, I hope you said it's over 50 submissions, which is really cool.
I think I've counted over 50.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we'll have 7. I mean, I think they've done like a voting now over Reddit for the, like, there's been 7 chosen by the admin team, and then there's 7 maps voted by the community.
But those are tournament maps that have been featured already. So
like there were like 3 options that they could vote from, and those 7 maps have also been selected. So we have already 14 maps ready.
That's correct.
And then 7 new maps. I just hope the new maps are cool and fun, because if there's some there,
I'm sure there will be. I gotta say, I find the idea fantastic. And it's the only thing that could potentially be bad, that the maps are not balanced right from the get-go. But, you know, no civs, $70,000 tournament prize pool, 7 brand new maps. I think it's going to be an amazing tournament. I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Agreed.
Then don't forget, the Masters of Rage Forest is now officially started. That's the 4v4 Black Forest event, $10,000 prize pool. The main event has 8 teams, Gamer Legion being one of them. And again, as I told you before, it's been a lot of fun, personally, watching the streams with you guys playing together. I wish we had so much more from that. But you guys played yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, and you beat the Chinese team, the LY team. So pretty easily 3-0, if I'm not mistaken. So how fun was it to play?
Yeah, it wasn't easy, as in like we didn't have to put any effort, but like the first game was a bit close, but the second and third game felt very comfortable. No, I mean, like that's the difference now, since it's not the original Rage Forest where you draft your own team, right? I think you have more one-sided sets as well, because in this case, like me, Doubt, Tato have a lot of experience in Rage Forest, and Hera is obviously an okay player. So if we can give him some guidance on the meta, he will definitely execute his role to satisfaction. Let's put it that way. And yeah, I mean, I think LY, especially on the flanks, I felt like we won the flank wars every time. So that's probably experience as well a little bit. And I know the other sets as well has been fairly one-sided in score, at least. I'm not sure how close the games were, but I know we had 3-0 with Tag against Peru mentioned. I know the Pendejos beat the Russian Ukrainian team 3-0.
That's the Elite Boyars, if I'm
Elite
not
Boyars,
mistaken.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And then Amigos beat the other team, Pandelos or whatever they're called.
La Pandilla de Miguel?
Exactly.
Okay.
But I looked a little bit on the stream now, and then that looked like a close set overall, despite the score being 3-1. So yeah, it's a double elimination, and it's been fun so far. Yeah, like Rage Force is always fun to me, right? I still, part of me miss a little bit the random draft, like where you get to play with different people, and the levels feel a lot closer because everyone has drafted a team. But obviously, like if you want to see the absolute powerhouses, like the Amigos playing together and giving their all.
Whenever, imagine Game of Legion against the Amigos. That's gonna be such a. Right. I hope that game happens at some point. Yeah. That's could be pretty epic. I'm a little bit torn in terms of who I want to win this tournament. Of course, on one side, I want you guys to win.
You're at the GL podcast, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's my team. Of course, I want you guys to win, but you guys haven't practiced. The other teams,
what
the
do you
Amigos,
mean?
The Amigos specifically, yeah, they've been practicing a lot. The other team, the Amigos, have practiced. You guys are not as familiar with the map as they are. So if you guys win this tournament, I really think that there's going to be very, very little appetite on the part of tournament organizers to make others. But if you guys do not win, I do feel like a lot of appetite is going to be there for more team game tournaments. I'm a little bit torn here. I definitely, I think I want you guys to win at the end of the day, but maybe you win by a very, very slight margin, almost losing last game, something like that.
I honestly think the result here, whether we win or lose, has zero impact on whether MEM wants to host the Battle of Africa, for example. Because this is still only one map. It's Rage Forest. It's a very specific type of map. I think the result here has zero impact on that in the end. But yeah, obviously it would be cool if this tournament goes all the way for us, and probably maybe if we could meet Amigos in the final and have a really close set, would be super good for the event. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like we did play some Rage Forest on stream together, so that's our practice.
It was so fun, man. Yeah. It was so fun. Doubt really trying hard. It's I've said this before. For me, it's the best way of watching a team game tournament is with the POV streams, and you hear the communications from everybody. Yeah. And you guys weren't forced to have any delay for this tournament. I was surprised by that.
There is delay in the rules, but we asked the admins, is it fine if everyone streams without delay? Then you remove the spectator delay, and it's fine. So
Okay, yeah. And when you hear the communication, you hear doubts try harding, which I don't know how often that happens in actual tournaments.
I was impressed how hard he was. Going at this
he was really feeling it, and if he's saying himself, it's the most fun tournament and whatever. And this is I mean, I have absolutely no power over the players, obviously, but I wish you guys would do this so much more often, even when there's no tournament. Just reserve a day in the week. I feel so stupid telling you guys what to do. Just reserve a day in the week where you guys play together as a team or practice together or whatever for content, for fun. People love to hear you guys banter with each other. It's such fun content. You need to do this way more often, in my opinion.
We have tried to do something like that where it's like, okay, Wednesday's team game day, for example, right? It lasts 2 weeks, and then it's like, okay, suddenly someone's schedule switches, and we all have different schedules, different lives, right? We cannot always be like, okay, we're going to meet there and then all the time. I agree, though. I have a lot of fun playing. I play Rage Force all the time, right? So whenever the boys want to join, I'm happy for that.
What if you don't see this as, an opportunity of getting together? What if you see this as like a professional athlete? We have a training and we need to make this training happen once a week. Let's say, I don't know, just saying something random. Fridays, 2 p.m., 2 hours or whatever.
It doesn't work because first of all, Hera has different time zone to us. Secondly, Doubt has
whatever
children.
Time.
I have a child. Tato has to play Age of Empires Mobile with his clan, so it's like we all.
And you've been financing his addiction. You've been financing his addiction, I heard.
So it's like it's just hard. Like again, we have tried before to be like, okay, we just all want to meet at this time every week. It doesn't work. We all have things that come up, right? Suddenly have a doctor's appointment, or you need to change the wheels of your car, or you have to go meet the grandparents. Like there's always something. So having one fixed time all the time doesn't work. At this stage in our lives, at least. But I love playing team games with the guys, and I have a lot of fun with that as well. It's my favorite way of playing Age of Empires, I think, too, at the moment. I would like to see more, but it's also like, for it to be fun for us, we also need opponents that also show up at that time in that case. And it's
if you guys are streaming, everybody's going to want to play against you. I bet how much you want.
When we were playing Rage Forest, we ran out of opponents the other day. Like suddenly we could only get 6 players in a lobby.
Well, because you're doing only Rage Forest. If you do something else, I'm pretty sure you find more players. I mean, if people know at this time, imagine you have like 1 day a week. Everybody knows the GL guys are going to be playing together and they're going to be looking for opponents. You're always going to get somebody. I bet my ass that that's going to be the case. I'm sure Hera would agree with me here. I'm pretty sure Hera's the kind of guy who wants to do more content with the team, wants to have more content out there in general. So
he plays 7 hours 1-on-1 Arabia, then 4 hours Rage Force with us, and then he's like, okay, guys, let's queue when we're done. 2 more hours, 3 more hours of Arabia. No. Every time we have done like 3 games, we're like, oh, guys, we're tired. Let's call it here. And he just like goes down.
Yeah, I heard at the end of the series against LY, you guys, Hera was like, so, Doubt, let's keep playing a little bit more Black Forest.
And he had already played 5 hours before that.
So. It was like 6 hours into a stream. Okay, then I'm just going to do 1v1s. I don't think he's done a whole lot more after that, but still. Dude, I admire him so much for the try-hardness, man. Always trying. I find it incredible.
I mean, that part I would say has something to do with age, maybe. When I was at his age, I was also grinding 10 hours a day.
Oh, 100%.
I enjoyed it, right?
100%.
Maybe not age, maybe life responsibilities, let's put it that way. Which
is
age,
closely connected to age, yeah.
So I don't blame him. I would have done the same in his shoes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so actually everybody's already talked about the patch, so we don't need to be very extensive here. Just very quick. Is infantry, so we're going to be talking about the new patch that is going to be accompanying the new DLC. Is infantry finally going to be viable?
I will need to play like 2 days with the patch to have a feeling of it, because now they will have the same speed as archers. You can always run away from archers. You won't, I mean, depending on the pathing, you still probably not going to have amazing engagements against archers when you're chasing them yourself. But the point is, you can always hit and run kind of with men-at-arms, go in to try and attack a villager and escape. Well, currently you cannot do that. Like, you will get caught. So my only concern here is that maybe men-at-arms meta or openings become so common and so powerful that the opponent to counter it has to go range. That maybe we have the scout opening kind of dwindle out a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we also, we still have some civs that have amazing bonuses for infantry, like Burmese, Japanese. These guys, men-at-arms openings should be insane. Romans even, so...
Romans lose arson, so... but still.
You can do the +2 armor in Feudal Age, for example.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, speaking of arson, Doubt says arson to Feudal Age is the biggest deal of the whole DLC. Would you agree?
Could be, yeah.
Really?
I mean, suddenly if you have a good opening with men-at-arms and you keep 3 for men-at-arms alive, you do arson, because in Feudal Age you're going to melt buildings still. You can melt houses, you can start thinking about taking out production buildings.
And half the price now.
Men-at-arms and towers, for example, might make a comeback, because you can build a tower on an opponent's building and then the men-at-arms can clean that building. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot of things that we have to try and get a feel of before we can completely say if it's going to be viable or not. But that's the exciting part as well, right? We don't know, and can't wait to try it out.
Totally agree. All right, guys, this was the ending of the first part. Stick around. We're going to have Cysion in just a couple of seconds. Don't you go anywhere. All right, everybody, we're back, and we're now joined by Cysion. He's the lead developer for Age of Empires 2, the founder of the Forgotten Empires Studios, and one of the most influential figures in the world of Age of Empires 2. So, Cysion, thank you so very much for taking the time, and welcome to the Town Center.
That was quite the introduction, but thanks. Good to be here.
Hey, listen, deserved, in my opinion. Absolutely deserved. I was just wondering one thing, Cysion, just to start things off, because you were telling us in the chat before we started recording that you're about to go on an extended vacation or something like that. And I have no clue about how any of this works, obviously, but I would imagine that, in the weeks and days before a big DLC is released, everybody would be sort of, all hands on deck. So is it like you guys are way ahead of schedule, or is it like you have full trust in your team that they're going to do the job without you just fine?
An easy one. We have full trust in the team, really.
Right,
I also noticed that in the past few years, the team, or I could remove myself much more from the day-to-day development on Age of Empires 2. I'm still there, and I'm still present for sure, but a lot of the day-to-day things are just handled by a lot of people now, and that is it's a pleasure to be able to take a break after working so long on a franchise. Yeah.
And here I was thinking that pathing is finally fixed, so he finally gets a break. But
okay.
I'm just joking. But I mean, like, it's crazy to think about that you're now in this position, right, where you have you're delegating. You can delegate so much, right? If you think back to when it started with the Forgotten, it's crazy that we're here.
Yeah, I mean the team is now like 100 people, so there's a lot of
Crazy.
hands to to carry a lot of the work now. That helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Cysion, obviously we want to talk with you about the new DLC that has been announced. I don't think we have an official name for the DLC, right? Do you guys have? I'm not asking you to tell us,
Give
but
us
do you guys have
exclusives.
yeah, feel free to give us as many exclusives as you want. Let me make that clear, but we're not going to force you, of course. But do you guys have a name for it? Have you decided on a name?
Oh yes, yeah. Like a lot of these things are locked and loaded. Like we have the promo screenshots, like the store page is hidden somewhere in the archives of Steam, ready to be published. Okay. Like a lot of these things are ready to go out, and unfortunately, I am definitely under NDA, and I will not be able to share a lot of things.
Wow.
So I'm sorry for that in advance, but there will be big juicy drops for sure.
Can I ask one thing about I mean, we had the Indians were split up into different civs, and now we have the Chinese going through the same process. When you did the Indians, did you already know that you were going to the Chinese, or has it been like, okay, this worked out well, so we're going to also try with different?
No, actually not.
Okay.
So, and maybe this is one clarification or a little juicier drop for the interview, but. The Chinese, I wouldn't say is split. Indians was definitely a split.
Right.
I would say back in the day in 2013 when they came up with Indians, I was like, that's a gross misrepresentation of history. There was no such thing as an Indian civ back then, but God, what the hell did I know? Not enough, clearly. So we were happy that we could finally rectify that and do the Indian medieval history, some justice. So that was something that we kind of felt coming for a while. China didn't really have that. And also, like, as the Chinese DLC will be launching in the near future, the Chinese civ is still there. We're not splitting the Chinese civilization. There is just more China-related content, let's put it like that. But the Chinese civ as it is, it will evolve a bit, it will change a bit, but it is the Chinese. And then there's 5 civs around that. Yeah.
So that's something that a lot of people were questioning, were wondering, right? Whether it's going to be, because you have from the announcement that 5 new civilizations are going to be there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were wondering whether the Chinese is going to be one of those.
Yeah.
Because of how much you guys are going to change it or not. But now you're confirming China is going to stay and plus 5 civs on top of that.
So there's 5 new civs. I thought Chinese would be counted as one of the 5 new civs.
There you go. No, so it's 5.
Exclusive.
Yeah.
Well, I think the language of the announcement kind of showed that, but it's still crazy to think about it. Cysion, I'd be incredibly curious about this. So from what we hear and what we read in the announcement, it does feel like this is a massive patch. And you guys said it's going to be a massive patch. Everything that we've seen so far seems to confirm that. I even heard some people say that it might match the Conqueror's expansion in terms of scope. We don't know that yet, of course, but why did you guys decide to go for such a big patch now? Why did you guys decide to be so generous to the community? Let's put it this way.
That's a long answer to that one. So
the podcast.
It is. Well, okay, let's go. So there's a few points or a few things that come into play for that one. First of all, there were some big stories that we wanted to tell with this DLC, and I can't go into that. But once it's released, you'll see, like, okay, I see why you did it that way. And if you want to tell the stories that we want to tell, you kind of need, we need to go a little bigger than the previous DLCs. We need a little more content. It needs to be a little more extended. And because of that, we just ended up with a bigger pack. That's one part of it. Sorry for the fuzziness on the reply. And the second part is one of my favorite words when it comes to video game production, and that is production reality. Now, what do I mean with that? We have so many teams working together. We have so many features that are working on, so many bug fixes that are being worked on, so much new content that's being worked on. And all of that eventually needs to end up in the same engine, in the same game. And you want to do that in a way that makes sense. And what I mean by that is that if, let's say, two people are working on the same code, all of that needs to come together at some point. It needs to merge. And either things go boom or things go smooth and everything is great. Now, we had a lot of these things in development. And we're like, okay, if we're actually going to merge that and bring that together, it makes sense to bring that out together rather than keeping it separate. And then we will have problems later when we need to merge it. And we fix bugs here and then they're not fixed here. And then they come together and it becomes messy. And that's where the production reality came in. Because, for example, when we had the castle skins, there was some work going on with the castle skins. We've been having these for a while, and we're like, okay, when do we release them? And it now made perfect sense to release them. So it was a bit of a perfect storm. A lot of features that we have been planning for a while, we just didn't really know when to release them. And then production reality kicking in and saying like, okay, if we actually do this, we might as well do this and this and this and this. And then
you mentioned that they are free. Was there ever any consideration of like having them be like paid DLCs or anything like that? Because I mean, like, there are opportunities to make money here, and like a lot of people would buy skins like this, for example, right? Because I mean, like, this is something that how many people are going to love this, right? I'm a competitive player. Like, those things don't necessarily appeal to me, but this like skins on elite units or castles is amazing, right?
Yeah.
So how does it make sense to give it away for free, essentially?
That I think is more of a question for World's Edge to answer, but
Right.
I'm happy we can release it as such. So I think it's a fair question. I think it just went that way.
We're not complaining. I'm just
asking the question. Nobody's complaining.
No, I think it's a good question, but I think it might also be one of those production reality things where it's just like, okay, we have the skins, but now, for example, if you want to sell them, you would also have to think like, oh, okay, now I need to make a system to lock them and unlock them.
Right.
Now I need to, which is not really present in Age of Empires 2 at the moment. Every other game that gets released today obviously comes with a skin equipment system and a gifting system and a, I don't know, soft and hard currency system to actually purchase them and blah, blah, blah. So it's a little more extensive than that. And that might have been part of the consideration for World's Edge to say, like, makes sense to just do it like this.
I feel like you're even selling short how much of a change this is going to be. You're only talking about the castle skins, but we're going to have a lot of new visual assets, the elite units. We're going to have new animations, I believe, for melee units and for monks, right? I think you're going to have a new animation for monk, whether they're healing or whether they're converting. I'm pretty sure that language was in the announcement.
New monk skins as well, monasteries.
New monk skins. It's just so much that this seems like it must have been such a massive undertaking. And I remember you saying in an interview session at some point that doing this would cause the game to be much bigger, to just, take a lot more space. And that was a bit of a problem. So how did you actually come around this problem?
Okay, so, I'm going to nerd out on this one if you don't mind.
Do.
So the problem, or the challenge rather, with Age of Empires 2 is that it's still entirely a two-dimensional game. It looks 3D because it's the isometric perspective, but it is two-dimensional. What does that mean? For example, for a destruction animation, every single frame that you see of the castle coming down is rendered, and every frame is saved. It's not like, oh, we need to store the cracks and how it's going to come down and then just simulate it on the spot. No, that's all rendered out and all saved. Now, that is a lot. I think at some point we even said like the new upgraded ship, for example, with all the animations, all the destructions, is larger than the original entire game. So
it's crazy.
It scales. It scales massively. Now, when we were working on that, I think at some point all the assets were done, and the game was 120 gigabytes. And we're like,
120.
Well, that's in 2019. That was just like, not done.
Not anymore, though, right? It's not unheard of these days.
Well, these days it happens more and more, and then games got even bigger than that for sure. But 120 gigabytes is like, no, we can't do that. So we had to, find ways to reduce that. We found ways to reduce it, and eventually we shipped with much less. I forgot the exact size. Thing was like 40 gigabytes, which was still sizable, but not as big. And then the other bit that happens, because over years we also found other ways to further reduce that. For example, one thing that we noticed was the destruction animations. They were lossless. So that meant that every frame was a perfect representation of how it was rendered. But then we were like, those frames go so fast. What if we save them lossy rather than lossless? And, some pixels don't look as good. It's JPEG versus PNG, like that kind of example. It's not perfect. And then we rendered it out and we're like, you just don't see the difference.
Nobody sees it, yeah.
Exactly. So that was one thing. And then the second thing is computers just get better. It's now been 7 years, and I had a look at SteamDB the other day. And back when we were developing H2DE, when we started, I think 44% of people had 1 terabyte hard drive. And today that's 66% of people. So all of a sudden you have so many more people who can save the space to accommodate a little more assets. So that's really the 2 big contributing factors to allowing us to expand on visuals where previously we couldn't.
Was it also because you had the enhanced graphics DLC was also part of the release?
That was part of exactly your space saving ideas, because even then, like we really wanted to make like a 4K showcase out of it. It was like, if you play on 4K, which back then not a lot of people did. Like I bought a 4K monitor specifically for that, but I had to go around the city, go to every shop. It's like, hey, do you have a 4K monitor? And they're like, what? Like, hello, future boy, please.
Yeah, they're ubiquitous right now. Yeah, you can see them everywhere.
I just want to point out, though, you're talking about the destruction animations now. That's probably my favorite animation in the game, watching castles get destroyed. It looks so good. Especially my opponents.
My favorite part, so when we were doing, we were presenting Age of Empires 2DE at Gamescom, I think it was, and we had a lot of press coming in. And there was a journalist from, I think it was from Colombia, and we were doing the presentation and showing the game. And at some point we were showcasing the destruction animations. And he just was like, wait, stop. And he went up to the screen and he was just like, can you delete that castle? And we deleted the castle. It's like, oh, and it's like, can you delete this and can you delete that? And it was like he was having the best time. It was
very satisfying,
marvelous to see.
And now a lot more castles to delete.
Cysion, there's a big focus on infantry for this DLC, as far as we could see from all the patch notes and all of that, right? And so I wonder, is this because you guys want to see more infantry, or is it a reaction to the community feedback? Because it feels like you guys have been trying to, buff infantry more and more. And it feels like this time you might have been able to do it, though it's hard to say without actually playing the DLC, obviously. So is this something you guys wanted to do, or is this a reaction to the community feedback?
Both.
Okay.
Like, I think ever since 2013, we've seen civilizations coming in with an infantry twist. And that was kind of my very safe reaction initially to making infantry a bit more viable without breaking the entire game. And sorry, the Malay and the Malians, like both of them were specifically designed with like, okay, let's try something with infantry. Let's see what gives. And those things worked for a while, but I think the team, especially egged on, I guess, by the community feedback, were like, okay, yeah, but let's now really make some deeper changes rather than keeping them civilization specific. And let's try to make some changes across the board. So definitely both. But that's also what's so interesting sometimes when working on this. Like a lot of things like we have ideas about, and if you then see the community feedback coming in, then it's a lot easier to put that on schedule and go to World's Edge and say like, hey, we'd love to work on this, and we think the community would like that as well.
Interesting.
Let's do that.
So people talking on Reddit and complaining about stuff, it's not wasted. It's not for the birds, as people like to say.
It is generally not wasted. Like we read Reddit, we read the official forums. Like,
all right, so keep doing it, guys.
I've seen Cysion respond multiple times as well himself. So
Forgotten Empire dudes, a lot of times. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, interestingly enough, Cysion, and I don't know how much you can share about this, but you're not only working on an Age of Empires 2 DLC, you seem to be working very heavily in an Age of Empires 4 DLC as well.
Yes.
Whenever I see a lot of screenshots for the new DLC for Age of Empires 4 called Knights and Crosses, if I'm not mistaken, I see lots of Forgotten Empire logos, but I see no Relic logo. So how much can I actually talk about this? Are you guys solely responsible for the new DLC? Are you working alongside Relic? How are things like right now in the Age of Empires 4 department?
Yeah, sure. So I'm not really going to talk much to Relic. I think that would be not my qualification at the moment. But I can talk about the upcoming DLC a tiny bit. So that has indeed been almost entirely created by the team at Forgotten Empires. Obviously, we always work together with World's Edge. Obviously, they were hosting like the build servers, the continuous integration, all these kind of things, and they're helping us with onboarding, supporting us in multiple ways. But I would say what eventually will be released, that would be, I would say, 90 till 95% developed by Forgotten Empires team. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So your involvement is massively increased from the days that the game has been released.
Yes. Now that is specifically for this DLC the case, but there's also other partners, working on the game in other ways. But that is where I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, sure. On that note, I have a clip here that I'd like to share with you, and it's not a trap. No worries. This is just it's just a feel good clip. So I want to hear your reaction to this. So this was on an interview with me you gave me in August of 2021. And this is right around the launch of Dawn of Dukes. And this is what you said when I asked you if you were disappointed that your studio wasn't more involved in the development of Age of Empires 4. This is what you said.
Relic is a company that has been around for, I'm going to say, nearly 30 years. They have, 200 plus people in their company. Forgotten Empires is around for 8 years at this point. We're between 50 and 60 people. If you want to go for a AAA game and give it to a company that has absolutely no experience ever publishing a AAA game, it's just logical. I mean, was it always my dream to work on on Age of Empires? Yes. Do I want to do more? Yes, absolutely. But the reality just dictates that you need a big experienced team to work on, the most anticipated title in the franchise. So absolutely understand it.
Was it always my dream? Absolutely. So is it a dream come true for you and the team to be able to work more on Age of Empires 4?
I mean, it's just nice to work across the franchise, and we have so many people now working on. I think we've worked on every installment now outside of Age Mobile. I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the only exception, I think. But the other ones we're all working on in to various extents, and it's a pleasure. Like, it's lovely, and it also leads to some like cross contamination to say like, hey, we tried this on Age of Empires 4, we tried this on Age of Empires 2, and this worked and this didn't work, and that way teams can learn a lot from each other as well. And the other thing as well from that quote from I forgot how many years ago it was.
2021, so almost 4 years ago.
4 years ago, okay.
Almost, yeah.
So I did say we were 50 to 60 people back then. So now we're 100. So we did
doubled in size.
We doubled, but we also learned a lot. Like, a lot of the team that was working with us back then is still working with us right now. So that's also 4 more years of experience for those 50 people.
I think we have already seen like inspiration going back and forth between, for example, Age of Empires 2 and Age of Empires 4. And I imagine it's the same now with the new Chinese DLC, because we have different variants of China in AoE 4. And one unit, for example, the Nest of Bees, I would imagine is somewhat similar to what the rocket launcher mangonel thing is going to be.
Rocket cart, I think it's
rocket
the name,
cart,
right? Rocket cart, yeah.
It might be like there's always some if you're working out of history, which we are, then you're using the same source material and the same basis. At some point, this was super long ago, right? There was a bit of a Reddit moment, where somebody was like super angry because they made design like one of those civ designs that people like to share, right?
Yeah.
And they were absolutely angry that we had gone for ballista elephants. But he, in his design, had also gone for ballista elephants, and we stole it from him, which was like, well, A, no, and B, it's just history. We're looking at history.
Right.
We're taking that.
Nobody invented history. Yeah.
Exactly. Like that's not entirely how it works, but yeah, that's.
This might be controversial, but like, we always have this AoE2 versus AoE4 and such. Within Forgotten Empires, is there a bias towards any game? Like, I know you probably still, I would imagine and hope, prefer AoE2. But I mean, again, guys, you can like more games than one. You don't have to only like one game. But yeah, is there like I imagine still most people in Forgotten Empires started off with AoE2.
I would say that was a starting point for most people, yes. And what we also try to do is the people who work on the respective titles, that the people who are like the biggest fans of, for example, Age of Mythology, that they work on Age of Mythology, respectively H2, H4, the same story. So we do try to do that. But I also we have a lot of people who like a lot of the games. For example, the people on the balance team, they really, really, really like Age of Empires 4, and they really, really, really like Age of Empires 2, for example. They're the perfect example of I really love both games. So yeah.
Learn, guys, learn.
Yeah, you can enjoy more than one game at a time. Okay, so going back to Age of Empires 2, we now have, I don't know if this is official or not, but we now have a new studio working for Age of Empires 2, the Capture Age studio, right? So I do wonder if there's any cooperation between your studio and Capture Age. Do you guys work together? Or, for example, on the Chronicles DLC, did you guys work together? Are they a completely separate studio that works for themselves? Is there any cooperation between you guys? How are things working in that department?
Oh, absolutely. And I think this is also a good segue into just showing how many studios really work on Age of Empires, because it's not just Forgotten Empires and World's Edge and then Microsoft to a larger extent. It's not just Capture Age either. There is Tantalus Studios, there's Wicked Witch Studios, there is Climax Studios, there is Virtue Studios, there is so many other partners that all work together. And not just saying about the franchise, but very often on a single game. And that you can't just work in your own studio there, because in the end, we're shipping the same game, we're shipping the same code. It is very possible that another studio comes in and, fixes some things, and all of a sudden it's the Franks now crash the game if you select them. And it's oh God, where did that happen? So we all share now that same responsibility to make sure that in the end we have a very stable product going out, and a good product. And we have to work together, because otherwise you just don't have a product that ships in the end.
Can I just sneak in a quick question? Because you said okay, you select Franks and the game crashes. I know there's been a lot of stories about how the spaghetti code from 25 years ago, where it's you touch one thing in the scenario editor and suddenly it crashes something in a completely different space.
Yes.
Have you guys been able to modernize the code to a certain extent where it is a lot more reliable, or are you still working with essentially what was the core code from the past?
We do try to modernize things. We had to modernize a lot of things when the original Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition came out, because a lot of those things just didn't compile anymore.
Right.
For example, the most interesting part was the renderer. That was all in assembly, so super low level code. And we're well, if we want to run on console in Microsoft Store, we can't have that anymore. We need to replace that because it just won't run. So there were things that we just had to replace. And then over time, we also just identified things that we just found okay, let's actually fix this, because this part of the code is just giving us continuous grief. And on top of that, it's just kind of dealing with it. We can't rebuild the entire engine. That would also just not be worth it. At some point, it's a massive game at this point. There's so much that you can do. Rebuilding that entirely is just not really worth it. And the way we try to deal with that is just like heaps and heaps of automated testing. Like whenever somebody checks in a change, we make sure that, for example, you can launch every civ, so it doesn't crash when you pick the franks. Like these kind of things also help us in making sure that the game is more stable. And that's also something that's been nice to see. Like we have the stability metrics to see, okay, how many crashes do we have? How many these things do we have? And that number has been getting better and better and better over the years. So the efforts certainly work out in that area.
Great to know.
Since you brought up picking franks and crashing, did that actually happen?
Probably. Probably.
A lot of things have happened. One of my favorite ones is when you could actually hunt trees with villagers.
Oh, yeah.
That was my favorite part. And collecting gold from docks was not too bad either.
Yep.
Cysion, from the part of the community that Viper and I come from, so the more competitive side of things, you often hear a lot of people complaining that it's now too many civs. You know, with these 5 new that we're getting, it's going to be 50, I believe. So my feeling is that the vast majority of the player base, which is not competitive and does not play competitively, is probably going to be fine with this. But I wonder, how do you and the team feel about this? The more civs that you can bring us, the better. Is there a limit that you see for yourself where you want to stop with no civs? How do you guys see this?
I mean, there's certainly a limit. Like at some point, you're kind of running
100?
out.
History runs out.
I'm not going to put a number on it because I've done that in the past, and I've always
I remember. Yeah.
What was the previous number?
I think the first. Well, there was always this number floating around of 42, and we've passed that.
Yeah.
And before that was another number, but I forgot what it was.
42 was the top. Okay.
Yeah, but that was. I mean, we've passed that already, so whatever.
I mean, at some point, you probably didn't expect to release anything past the Forgotten. I imagine at some point the Forgotten was like, okay, I did it. We released that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why our company name is Forgotten Empires. We literally thought it's going to be this thing, and then we're done. So that went out of hand. No, but it's, you have the hard limit of world history, period. But at some point, you also need to ask yourself, like, can you still tell the stories that you want to tell? If I were to say we're going to add I don't want to disrespect any civilizations out there, so I'm just going to tell my home country, right? Like, let's say there was this little duchy in the medieval Netherlands, and it was called the Duchy of Liège, right? That was a thing that existed. Can you make a civilization out of that? I don't think so. So there is also a point where you're like, okay, this is just not really working out. But there is. I don't know what the limit is in absolute number. I just know these are the things we look at. Like, is this still worthwhile? Is this interesting? Can we tell an interesting story about those people? Do people recognize it? Like, if I see Liège, like half of the world is going to be like, what? And that's not necessarily what you want to make. So these are the things we have to keep in mind for that. So yeah.
Okay, but do you understand this critique? I mean, do you see where people are coming from? Do you guys try to, do something about it by not making these? Okay.
Yeah. So it's absolutely fair, right? Like, but we also notice that a lot of people enjoy the games in many different ways, and there's just no way in pleasing everybody. A good example for that is, actually, let's take this as an example. It's hypothetical, but let's say unique Unix skins. Let's say we're doing that. Let's say we have the bandwidth for that, like the hard disk space for that. The technical limitations might be out of the way for that. Let's say we're doing it. Now, that's really cool. Let's say every civilization looks unique and every civilization has its own flair. But for a competitive player, all of a sudden we'll be like, oh God, the mental overload of having to recognize 40 different knights and 40 different crossbowmen is through the roof. So there is, for whatever content you create, there's always like parts of the player base that will probably not like it and parts of the player base that would absolutely love it. And I think, particularly for additional civs and whether it's too much or not, I think there's an element of choice to it. what we try to do at least is make sure that the civilizations are digestible. And that's, if you get a new civilization, what's the first thing you're going to try? Okay, can I do knights? Can I do crossbows? Can I do... you're going to the unit roster that you know and trying to mold the tactics that you know to the new civilization and try to come up with new things, new variations. Maybe I can combine my crossbows with towers. Maybe I can combine my knights with monks, these kind of combos. But it's going back to the same base, the same shared technology tree that everybody knows. And that makes onboarding to new civilizations and switching between civilizations much more digestible. And then there's the part of choice. Sorry, I mixed up those two things. But then there's the part of choice. Do you want to play it? If you don't want to play the Armenians that were released a few years ago, that's fine. Like you probably don't have to. And maybe there's a point where tournament organizers are like, you know what? It's a lot of civilizations. We're gonna do a tournament just about European civilizations, just to give an example.
What a great idea, actually.
Like maybe that's a thing that people will be interested in, and then you just focus on European civilizations. I mean, we already do that to an extent where it's like, Masters of Arena or the Arabia-specific tournaments, we just focus on one map. You can just say, okay, for this tournament, we're going to focus on a pool of 20 civilizations. Like, I think there's ways to play around with that to your liking.
I mean, yes, there are people that criticize the amount, but then there's people like me who are like, yes, more civs, the better, right? I'm also a content creator, right? And I like competitive play. So like when there's more options or new civs, then it's a massive boost for me and my motivation to continue playing. And but I also have the issue where people come to my chat like, hey, Viper, which civ should I start with? Would you start the game? And I'm like, oh.
Good luck.
But no, like, I agree completely. Like you cannot please everyone. And in the end, also like, for Age of Empires to continue to be developed, they need to make money, and DLCs and new civilizations is also a way to generate revenue. So, I mean, people have to make decisions that don't necessarily please everyone, but I'm completely happy with the current path we're on.
It seems to be the prevalent, like not to dismiss any criticism of this, but it is definitely what we're seeing and as well in sales. Like it is a prevalent opinion. Like people would like shiny new toys. They
just like more. Yeah, they just like more. That's just the way it is. Yeah. Okay, Cysion, thank you so much for your time. Before I let you go, people would kill me if I didn't at least try to get a little bit of information out of you. If you can't say anything, you just don't say anything. So a lot of people have been speculating that the Jurchens and the Tanguts are going to be in the DLC. Confirm or deny or nothing?
I'm going to play the NDA card, sorry.
Play the NDA card. Okay, so it doesn't... Guys, at least I tried. At the very least I tried.
One final thing I want to ask.
Okay.
So I'm from Norway. We have neighbors, Sweden, Denmark, these guys. Somehow we're all labeled under Vikings. It's like calling something pirates or something like that, right? Shouldn't Vikings maybe be like separate to like Norway? I'm just like pointing it out here. So like, would there possibly, like, you don't have to confirm or deny, but would there be a slim chance that in the future maybe Vikings could deserve the Indians treatment?
I mean, I think there are multiple civilizations that have been generalized a little too much in the game. Saracens are one of them. Vikings are another one.
Saracens and Vikings split confirm. I'll leave it there.
I'm just saying I see where you're coming from. But
and you see potential.
Yeah, there's potential, but
Viper's just planting the seed. It's going to ruminate in your mind. Yeah. All right, Cysion, listen, this was awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, it's been a pleasure being here. Pleasure talking to you guys, and it's always just fun to talk about Age of Empires. Like I've been working on this for like a decade now. Actually, the other day, fun quote. I was thinking, I was like, goodness me, I spent a third of my life working on Age of Empires, and I shared it with my wife as well, and she was reading it, and she was like, I thought you were going to talk about you spent a third of your life with me. And I lost so many points that day, but there you go. I really enjoyed working a third of my life on Age of Empires. And for the record, I also have enjoyed a third of my life with my wife. So there we go.
Hope she watches this. Thank you so much, Cysion.
Thank you.
And to all of you at home, if you enjoyed the podcast and the episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and all of that. And we'll see you next time.